Hello there, it is another edition of Business Digest. Thank you for joining us. My name is Dana Iriza and I'll be taking you through today's show. Let's have a look at what's coming up. Now this week in the insurance sector of the country, a merger has been formed between two insurance firms, that is Soras and Sanlam. The entity that has been formed between these two firms is going to raise a market value of $30 million, $20 million from Soras and $10 million from Sanlam. Let's look more into the details of this story. Sanlam Group, a Pan-African diversified financial services provider with a presence in 34 countries, has announced the merger between Soras and Saham Rwanda Limited to form one entity. The merger, which is expected to come to completion at the end of March 2019, will going forward be known as Soras. Sanlam entered the Rwandan market by acquiring 63% interest in Soras Group in 2014. This was followed by the acquisition of the remaining 37% interest in Soras in 2017, making Soras a wholly owned subsidiary of the Sanlam Group. You're still watching Business Digest. Now join me as we welcome Mr. Jean Chrysostom Hodari, the Chief Executive Officer of Life Limited and Soras Insurance Company, and Mr. Fiacre Birasa, the Chief Executive Officer of Assurance Generals Limited and Soras Insurance Company, and they're here to shed more light on this topic. Now, Mr. Jean Chrysostom Hodari and Mr. Fiacre Birasa, what took so long for these sister companies, Saham and Soras, to work together and to merger, basically?
Just to remind you that Soras started the business in 1984. That time it was a composite insurance company, and since that time it expanded. It have been growing very quickly to spread into two sisters companies, Soras Assurance General and the Soras V. In 2010, we have now two independent companies, and Saham have done also the same. Now, Sanlam acquired Soras in 2014, and it acquired Saham in 2018. So now we're just waiting to the transaction to be completely now to start the process of the merger. Yeah.
Elaborate a little bit on the market share of Soras now that the merger has been officialized.
Now the market share, we used to be, I'm talking on the left side, no? Fiacre is going to talk on the general side. On the left side, we used to be number one with around 60% market share. Now, both combined, because some Life also used to be number two, we're now around 80% market share on the left side. Now, combined, we become bigger and stronger.
How do the Saham customers get affected by this, now that it looks like Saham is going to be fully absorbed by Soras?
They're not going to be affected. It is a positive development that we make the customer for Saham to access a bigger network of Soras. Soras now is the leading company and is number one. Regarding the market share, for general business, we are number one with about 70 something, and if put Saham will be around 25%. Combined or life non-life, we over around 35% of the share market, which is quite big. So the people are going to benefit that, and knowing that insurance is a matter of big number. Okay, as we have a big network, a big enough financial capacity. Okay, that is positive development to serving better our customers.
Now, besides customers, let's talk a little bit on the employees under Sanlam company. How will they be affected by this now that Sanlam and Soras will be working together? Will you be laying off a couple of employees?
Not Sanlam.
Not Sanlam.
We are sister companies. Okay, it is like we have the same father. Okay, you cannot differentiate between the kids. So the process we are going to enter in is to choose the best, both sides. Okay, and the treatment will be the same. In this process of merger, you cannot get two CEOs, you can get two CFOs. But what is good, as they say, in the insurance industry is huge and wide. If you not get a job as a payment staff, you can at least be our agent and work to your own interests and they continue partnering a win-win. And for the case where people are not be willing to do so, we are going to be fair and for the labor law process. And even going beyond, give more than what is expected from the law.
Just to give you clarity, we'll try to save, let's say, between 80 and 85 jobs, meaning probably 15%, between 10 and 15% will be those jobs.
That means the employees of Sanlam will actually be affected, and this will hence create unemployment.
But also get other opportunity.
Get other opportunity, because we might not have that full-time contract, but you can be our agent and bring business and be paid.
And continue working together.
Yeah.
Now, before we conclude our interview, do you have anything extra to share with our viewers out there? Any final remarks?
Really to say is the motto of the day. Okay, Sanlam Rwanda merging. Okay, we are stronger, bigger, and better together.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, it's the same thing. We become stronger, bigger, and we will provide the better service.
And to serve better our customers. That is the ultimate aim.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Jean Hodari and Mr. Fiacre Birasa, for taking the time to have an interview with Business Digest.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're still watching Business Digest. We still have more to come. To stay with us. The music industry has now accepted streaming as its revenue leader and is poised to adapt around that, with many analysts and experts expecting that the business will streamline itself with rewrites of law, new royalties, negotiations, mergers, acquisitions and consolidations into something leaner and finally more lucrative for musicians. However, no one knows when that will be. By recent research estimates US musicians only take home 1/10 of the industry revenues. One reason for such a major percentage is that streaming services, while reinvigorating the music industry at large, aren't lucrative for artists unless they're chart-topping names. According to one Spotify company filing, average per stream payouts from the company are between $0.006 US and $0.084 US. Numbers from Apple Music, YouTube Music, Deezer, and other streaming services are comparable. Business Digest got to speak with one of Rwandan's local music producers to talk to us about how the music industry in Rwanda works and how musicians get income from the local music industry. We're living in an era that does not use CDs that much and tapes. Most of the music we listen to is free via the internet and radios. And if an artist does not do enough concerts, enough shows, how else do they make money?
Before, artists used to make money. If I look at 2001, 2008, before, artists used to make a lot of money than now. Because before the social medias, YouTube, it was very hard for us to find such platforms. But now everyone has a phone, they can download it, send it via WhatsApp, they can get it anyhow. So it's very hard these days to get money as an artist unless you're big, unless your music is too good to perform.
Get more into the financial side of music, the music business. Let's talk about the income streams that come from sites like Spotify. How does that work? How do you manage to leverage income from Spotify and all these other their sites, I guess? Yes.
For now, we haven't reached that level where you can make a lot of money on Spotify, but I think we need more trainings, more coaching about that. I think the government should improve this, bring more people to teach about this, because
one thing I've noticed is we don't have Spotify in Rwanda.
Yeah, we have, and some artists have started selling, but they don't understand the market.
The market side.
Yeah. So it's hard for us, because sometimes when you go on Spotify, you find you have like 400 views, but no money. So we don't understand the business pretty well.
So people out there who have a wrong perception on music, they believe no business can be run in the music industry, no money can be made. What message do you have for them?
Well, there is a lot of money, but first of all, when you're doing music, you don't do it for money. It's passion. It's like becoming a football player. You never know where it's taking you.
But if someone is looking at money solely, they just want to make money and grow business-wise.
Okay. I think the investor should be the one to focus on where to get the money from. But for us as artists, most of us do it because we love it. Sometimes we have money, sometimes we don't. It's tricky, but I believe that first of all, when you want to make music, do it from your heart. Not because someone else is making money out there, not because you're seeing Cardi B, but you need to focus on your passion first, and everything comes with it.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. RG Consult Inc., the publishers of the property magazine Rwanda, now on its 10th edition, is now holding the first edition of an expo specific to real estate and construction sector known as the Kigali Property and Shoppers Bazaar 2019. The expo, which is designed as a 6-day national real estate meeting and exhibition for Rwanda by real estate stakeholders, is held under the theme Dream It, Finance It and Achieve It. It is said that the expo is expected to be attended by prominent national property investors and developers, a cross-section of leading commercial banks, top-tier consulting firms and real estate practitioners, as well as public authorities and ministries.
Publication and holding this expo is pretty obvious. There's an ongoing construction boom. Okay, you need to look around and you see that Kigali City is one massive construction site. Every few meters you will see a crane coming up. You will see buildings being commissioned, buildings coming up, so there's an ongoing construction boom. And I can confidently tell you that Rwanda's construction sector is a stimulus to the economy. So the reasons are very obvious. So we are the voice of the sector, and to take value further, we decided why not hold an expo, and this is the first one. Thank you. As economic growth fundamentals, I don't have to emphasize them. For Rwanda's economic growth rates have been on double digits for the last 10 years or so. Okay, so and we also know that Rwanda is a good investment destination. And that's why you're seeing all these. These are investors basically. Okay, these are investors. There's D&D over there putting up a multi-million-dollar project. We have Panorama, the same. We have Izuba, and we also have the value chain participants like Rock Ceramics and all this. Real estate is capital intensive, and we are not just talking about small money here. We're talking about multi-million dollars. Okay, so there's need to have a platform, and there's need to have a service provider that analyzes this trade, and that is the property magazine work.
This event is meant to provide an insight into real estate in Rwanda and the physical infrastructure, which is fundamental to the development of the country, and its activities affect all stakeholders in the construction sector that touches almost everyone's lives.
Most people, like any other African country, most people are looking for houses that will retail at around 10,000 United States of American dollars. That's around 9 million, 10 million Rwandan francs. If there are developers who can supply homes going for 10,000 United States of American dollars, that's around 9 million Rwandan francs, and it is decent, you know, they will make a lot of money because the demand is there. That's what I can tell you.
And on today's segment of Market Trends, I'll be bringing you the gross domestic product of the third quarter of 2018. In the third quarter of 2018, the GDP at current market prices was estimated at Rwandan francs 2,062 billion, up from 1,927 billion Rwandan francs in the third quarter of 2017. In this quarter, services sector contributed 48% of the GDP, while agriculture sector contributed to 28% of the GDP. Industry sector contributed to 17% of the GDP, and 7% was attributed to adjustment for taxes and subsidies on products. Looking deeper into the industry sector grew by 12% and contributed to 2.1 percentage points to overall GDP growth. The growth in industry sector was mainly attributed to growth in manufacturing and construction activities of 10% and 17% respectively. Within manufacturing, beverages and tobacco increased by 15%, production of textiles, clothes and leather goods increased by 17%, while production of construction materials such as metallic production increased by 42%, while food processing decreased by 1% due to a decrease in cereal processing. As we look into the services, the growth of service sector grew by 7% and contributed to 3.6 percentage points to overall GDP growth. Lastly, the expenditure GDP. In the third quarter of 2018, total final consumption expenditure increased by 3%, with household final expenditures increased by 4%. Exports increased by 13%, while imports increased by 2%. Gross capital formation increased by 26%, mainly due to imports of capital goods. Now that was our final story for today, and it brings us to the end of tonight's show. I want to thank you for joining us. I also want to give a big thanks to our sponsors, Bank of Kigali. My name is Dana Iriza, and I'll see you all next week.